Crews have been hard at work, but there are still nearly 24 roads closed. Keep in mind, that is down from 500 roads that were closed, blocked, flooded, or shut down during the storm. Take a look around here at Wilson Boulevard in Richland County. It is the same story in many parts of the Midlands.
Here in Kershaw County, I'm standing near 25 Mile Creek Bridge on Pine Grove Road, which was just washed out during last October's floods. It's also the site of where the one fatality happened here in Kershaw County. And while that fatality is a reminder of just how devastating the floods were here in South Carolina, this site is also the site of an incredible rescue, which will forever be ingrained in the minds of the brothers of the Lugoff Fire Department.
The preparations were made as best we could, but boy, when we got the calls on Sunday morning, it was just totally different than anything we could have expected.
And looking back over the images together, the department agrees it was surreal.
The devastation that we saw in the people's eyes as they're opening their door, we're literally there as they're waking up. And they open their door and water is rushing in.
This video was taken in the Canterfield subdivision in Lugoff on the morning of October 4th.
My biggest concern was we were there in 30 to 45 minutes and the water rose 3, 4, 5 feet.
But in the midst of that rising water in Canterfield and other parts of the county, Lugoff Fire successfully got everyone to higher ground.
We counted 32, went back and looked at all our responses, 32 actual rescues in the water.
And it was all done without the use of boats or significant rescue equipment. Lugoff Fire Chief Dennis Ray says the 8 rescue swimmers who performed a majority of their rescues were trained just a year before the flood.
We had an incident almost a year prior to the flood where a lady was trapped inside of a vehicle in a subdivision. We remembered at that point, said, you know what, we really need to do something in this area. So our Board of Commissioners voted and allowed us to spend the money to send some rescuers to the Whitewater Center up in Charlotte to get their swiftwater rescue training and purchase the equipment to at least begin swiftwater rescue operations.
And after putting that training into use for hours throughout the day on October 4th of 2015, none of them could have ever imagined what would happen that night.
We got a call that they heard what sounded like a female voice on Pine Grove Road in our fire district at 25 Mile Creek.
This is what Pine Grove Road looked like earlier in the day. Battalion Chief Chris Spitzer took this picture. He had been on scene while the road was collapsing.
The bolts that were holding that guardrail together were popping, and we can hear them pinging coming off, and we would hear them shoot through the wood line. That creek was so angry, and it was just pushing water uphill.
It's why the road was barricaded long before it got dark. But now close to midnight, Battalion Chief Spitzer and other members of Lugoff Fire were being called back to that scene. They'd soon learn someone had driven around the barricades.
We finally kind of locate where they're at, but you can't see them, the car itself. And the only thing that's sticking up is the left side of the tire, upside down. And I barely see it. We can barely see ahead. That's how far we are from this victim.
But the crew had resoluted to find a way in, and Captain Michael Stanfield was leading the way.
This is the one I go to bed with every night, especially thinking about him and these guys that were in the water. The video where you see Captain Stanfield rescuing her, Firefighter Gills was in the water as well. The water, what you don't see is we were standing in chest high water and we were tied off just to be able to hold on to these guys to make sure we had ropes moving and we had all the mechanical advantages that we needed.
What you also can't make out is this conversation.
So when I got to the car and got her off of it, and she said that he's under there. I said, how many people here? He said, he's under there. I said, what do you mean he's under there? He said, I got my boyfriend under there. I was just holding his hand. I was like, okay, I got another swimmer would swim to get him. He said, but let's get you out first. But knowing that the position where the car is and the position where the patient is, I knew he's gone. Whoever's in there is gone. And so I said, focus on you. Let's go.
But Captain Stanfield said the water was rushing so hard, he wasn't sure if they would make it out. And the woman he was attempting to rescue was pushing him under the water.
We started to come off the car. And of course, a drowning victim, that's what they're going to do. They panic. At that moment, when you think about it, it's like it's going to be the last one. This is going to be it, because I could not. Every time I tried to breathe, I breathed water.
At one point, I was getting ready to make that decision that it's time to get out, and we're going to have to get out of here for the safety of our crew. That's one of the things that haunt me at night.
After going underwater 4 times, Captain Stanfield said he was able to get the woman to calm down, and with the help of the crew, they would eventually make it out. But because of conditions, they would have to suspend rescue operations until morning, when the waters finally receded.
It's tough, especially you can't say both. You wish you could, but you can't.
And it's just a helpless feeling, but looking that, and after everything was said and done, incredibly proud situation, and to look at our folks and say, boy, I could not ask for anything else from our staff.
Today, Pine Grove Road remains under construction and looks very different than it did the night the Lugoff firefighters put their lives on the line.
I'm glad to be alive. I'm glad my brothers are alive. But it brings back some bad memories. You train for this stuff, and when it actually happens, it hits.
Captain Stanfield actually suffered a serious shoulder injury during the rescue and just returned to the station 3 months ago. It's a station that's now filled with even more new equipment since the October flood.
You can see behind me there's a lot of preparations that's been made, such as a rescue boat that we didn't have before, a LMTV, which is a military surplus vehicle for high water rescues, so our swimmers don't have to go in the water to get to a vehicle.
And Lugoff Fire has doubled the size of their swiftwater rescue team and their rescue equipment. But even with the changes, Chief Ray believes they did everything they could during the historic flood.
There's nothing we could have had, I feel, 100% that would have changed anything on that Sunday night, Monday morning in that rescue. I really don't feel like there's anything we could have done any different. But looking at what we've done through the whole event, I feel so much better about, if it happens again, how much more prepared we are. And we're going to learn lessons from the next one.
But there's one thing that will never change. Their heart for always putting others above themselves. Would you do it all over again?
Yes, I would do it again. It's in my blood. If it takes sacrifice and put your life in the line, and that's what we do. That's just a totally different breed of people that sign in for this one.
So when